Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. As Brad and I stood in line waiting for our lunch order, I quietly wondered how good an idea these lunches were. This is something new that we have been doing for the last few months. We always try to leave separately. I don't need tongues wagging at work. The barista, an older man, calls me by my first name. Hi, Connie. What are you doing today? Oh, hello. I'll have focaccia with tomatoes and mozzarella and a coffee frappuccino. Brad, what are you going to eat? Whatever you ordered. Everything will do. Wait a minute. I think I forgot my wallet. It's okay, Brad, I can handle it. It's strange. I wonder how the barista found out my name. I don't think we've ever met. And I haven't been to this coffee shop for more than 2 weeks. Brad started laughing. It seems so strange to me that an old man has to work in a coffee shop. I'll find a table for us and wait for you. I packed our lunch on a tray and went to look for Brad. He had an empty table at the back of the coffee shop. Sitting with my partner at lunch, I was fascinated by his attractive appearance. He was handsome, 6 feet 2 inches tall and 7 years younger than me. I am a married mother of 1 child, and I will turn 40 next January. He looks very good. It's clear that he's been attracted to me since that Christmas party last year. Brad started working at our real estate agency 3 months before Christmas last year. He's been pestering me nonstop since our first dance. Not that I've let anything happen. I am happily married to a fantastic man, and I have a beautiful 9-year-old daughter, but of course I love attention. Now, as already mentioned, I let him kiss me on the cheek a couple of times. He reminds me every day how beautiful I am and compliments my outfits. For the last 5 weeks, we've started having lunch twice a week. The last time we went to lunch, he hugged me at my car and kissed me on the lips for the first time. I was shocked. It seemed so wrong, but at the same time so right. From that day on, I refused his invitation to lunch. That was 5 days ago, and after Brad constantly promised to be a good boy, I reluctantly agreed. Sitting across from him and listening to his conversation while I was eating my sandwich, I realized that he must be drinking my drink. The paper cup he held in his hand had the name Connie written on it, and the cutest little angel wings on either side of my name. We continued to talk a little bit about work, and then about the upcoming Christmas party. I was nervous about the Christmas party because my husband, Troy, was going to be there this year. Due to conflicting work schedules, he was unable to attend last year. I was so worried that because Brad and Troy would both be there might be some problems. We had to get back to the office soon, and just as I was about to say this, I felt Brad's hand on my knee under the table. I quickly jumped to my feet and said, "See you at the office," and rushed out the door. I knew my wife Connie was nervous about the upcoming Christmas party. My previous employee Penny kept me informed of what was going on at my wife's work. Penny worked in my law office as a temporary assistant about 1.5 years ago. She was a 32-year-old single mother who was trying to make ends meet. Penny was a dedicated worker, but I just didn't need someone full-time. So when my wife informed me one evening that they were looking for an administrator, I gave her an enthusiastic review. This summer, out of the blue, Penny called me. When she informed me that she wanted to talk to me about something important, I recommended that she come to the office. I knew that everyone loved her and everyone would be glad to see her again. After she exchanged pleasantries with some of the staff, I invited her into my office and she sat down opposite me. I asked about her family, how she was doing, and if she liked her job. Penny told me that she is very happy and the family is doing well. She also told me that she hadn't found that special man for herself yet. She thanked me again for getting her a job in my wife's office. Then Penny said, "Anyway, that's why I'm here today. We have an employee at work. His name is Brad. He can be called a real player, even though he has a wife and 2 very young children. Brad likes to brag about the women he calls conquered, and the one, according to him, that he is going to conquer. First of all, Penny, call me Troy. Penny, if this guy is bothering you, I will make sure that it is taken care of, because harassment in the workplace is certainly illegal, to say the least. No, don't get me wrong. Sir, I mean Troy, yes." Brad was making hints, but I quickly stopped him, and he immediately fell silent. His target, Troy, is Connie, your wife. Connie wasn't stupid. and she was very careful that no one at work knew what was going on between her and Brad. But unfortunately for her, he wasn't that smart and liked to brag. Penny continued to fill me in on everything she had heard or seen. I felt like I really owed her now. I set myself the task of finding out everything I needed to know about my opponent, about his appearance, what kind of car he drove, and everything else. It was 3 days before Christmas, and I had a party tonight, Saturday. I got up early after a sleepless night and was going to meet my mom. We took my daughter with us. She wanted to get a manicure. I got a manicure-pedicure, my mom got a pedicure. After that, my mother took my daughter to her house for the night. Troy got up and went to the gym before I even got out of bed. He always kept himself in great shape because his job wasn't that physical, and he liked to exercise at least once or twice a week. I went with him from time to time, and it turned me on to watch him work with a punching bag. When I went with him, I always asked him not to shower at the gym. As soon as we got home, I would pounce on him. I liked the smell of his sweat. It turned me on. I do not know what it is lately. Maybe it's just the thought that I will turn 40 and I will not feel so desirable. Our life was not what it was. I think that was to be expected after so many years of marriage. Don't get me wrong, we still make love regularly. Troy is a gentle, loving lover and a great breadwinner. I didn't even have to work if I didn't want to. He is also the best father a daughter could wish for, loves her with all his heart, and is always there for her in all her affairs. Last night, when he went to bed, he had a very serious expression on his face. Troy sat up in bed, looked me straight in the eye and said, "Connie, what do you want for Christmas this year?" "Connie, what is your wish?" What a strange question. You fulfill all my desires. I'm sure you will choose something wonderful for me, as you always do. The way he said it alarmed me, and I didn't sleep well again. My daughter left with her mom, and I popped into a jewelry store to pick up a very expensive watch that I chose for Troy this Christmas. I knew he had his eye on them last summer. He would never have bought it for himself. He was very careful to make sure we were provided for, and he always thought of himself last. Everything was ready for tonight's party. I chose my little red dress and put it on a chair. I decided to lie on the bed for a while and wait for Troy to come home. I took a little nap to be fresh by the evening. I woke up to the sound of running water in the shower and tiptoed into the bathroom just as the water was turned off. I slip through the half-open door and find my husband drying himself with a towel. "Hey, pretty cheeks." I playfully pat his ass. "Hey, sleeping beauty. I didn't want to bother you, but are you ready to play now?" My loving husband wrapped me in his arms, pressing his naked body against mine and kissing me. I parted my lips. Our tongues slid into each other's hungry mouths. I reached out, cupped his bare cheeks with my palms and squeezed. Troy began to lead me slightly backwards through the bathroom door to the bed. We kiss and I start to put my hands between us, pushing him back. That sounds like a great idea, Tiger. But why don't we save it for tonight after we get back from the party? Oh, maybe I should put you down and eat you. Oh, don't worry, we'll have plenty of time. I stepped back. I thought to myself that I should hug you, turned around and walked away, wagging my ass. We both continued to prepare for the party in different rooms. I still had to put on makeup and fix my hair. While applying makeup, I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, am I still desirable? Yes, I know that I keep myself in good shape, and I have a beautiful face, but now I see these crow's feet near my eyes. Despite the fact that I am blonde, I have seen strange gray hair in some places. It won't be long before I have to start getting old. I know Troy keeps telling me how beautiful I am, but I just keep wondering if some younger model would be able to distract him from me. I wonder if Brad is coming with anyone tonight, and if he doesn't, I hope he will behave in the best possible way. I was going to wear white lace panties and a bra, but at the last minute, she opted for a black bra with matching thong. Troy always admired how great my legs looked, so I decided not to wear stockings. The coupe de gras, my little red dress, flared at the knees and off the shoulders, showed off the right amount of cleavage. We met with Troy downstairs. He looked amazing in a black suit, white shirt and turquoise blue tie that accentuated his eyes. He told me how fantastic I looked and hugged me as he walked me to the door. Troy decided to get behind the wheel because he doesn't drink very much as things stand. On the way to the party, I decided to call our little girl so that the two of us could say goodnight to her. Arriving at the Holiday Inn downtown hotel, we parked in the underground parking lot and took the elevator to the lobby floor. As we drove up, Troy took me in his arms and kissed me hard. In my 3-inch red stiletto heels, I could almost look him in the eye. As soon as the doors opened, he whispered in my ear, "You look stunning." Many people from 3 different real estate agencies have already arrived at the event. We went straight to the bar, and Troy asked for 2 glasses of Riesling. Near the dance floor, I introduced my husband to friends. We chatted and then found an empty table. I haven't seen Brad yet, and that's probably a good thing. Sitting there and listening to the DJ play great music, we enjoyed our drinks. Troy and I started a conversation with 2 elderly ladies sitting across from us. They were very nice. I had never met them before as they were from other places. Troy took my hand and we went out onto the dance floor. After dancing 3 songs, we returned to the table. Troy said he'd be right back. Bring me another drink. I got into conversation with another charming couple. When he returned, he treated me to another glass of wine and switched to ginger ale himself. I introduced him to the nice couple I was talking to and asked if it was okay if I went to look for my boss to say hello. After a short conversation with my boss, I finished my glass and took another one on the way to the table. When I returned, I saw Penny standing at the table talking to my husband. Returning to the table, Troy stood up and pulled out a chair for me so I could sit down. I smiled at Penny, knowing that she used to work with my husband. She works in my office, but we don't talk very often. I find her shy but a good worker. Then Penny continued her conversation. "Hi, Connie. I like your dress. Anyway, it's nice to see you." I smiled, said thank you, and she left. I took another sip of wine, then looked at my husband and asked, "So she's calling you Troy now?" Just at that moment, one of the gentlemen from the next office asked me if I wanted to dance, holding out my hand. I looked at Troy, and he nodded approvingly. On the dance floor, I looked back and saw Brad dancing with some woman I'd never seen before. As soon as the song ended, he came up to me before I could return to my table, took my hand and said, "Let's have a drink." I pulled my hand free and looked around to see if anyone was watching, but followed him into the bar. He poured us both rum and eggnog, and we toasted the holidays, and then he asked me to dance. I didn't see anything wrong with that, so we went to the dance floor. While we were dancing, Brad tried to pull me closer to the table where my husband was sitting, but I was determined to stay on the far side. I wasn't sure if his motive was to make my husband jealous, or if it was because there was mistletoe hanging from the ceiling right next to our table. Alcohol began to have an effect on me, and by the 3rd song I realized that I had been away from the table for too long. My wife thought I had no idea she was dancing with Brad, but I looked back and saw them at the bar having a drink. I was just getting up to cross the dance floor and intervene when Penny asked me if I would join her for a dance. We went out onto the playground. As soon as we started dancing, the song ended and the next song started playing, Johnny Rivers' Slow Dance. So we kept dancing, close but right. I had just returned to the table and looked up to see my husband dancing with Penny. I sat there, tapping my nails on the table, and watched them like a predator at a watering hole. When the song ended, she still had her hands on his shoulders. They were standing right under the mistletoe, and she looked up, stood on tiptoe, and leaned forward to kiss him. Could have been on the cheek, but from my angle it looks like lips. Then another man came up and asked Penny to dance, and she left. Troy returned to the table, sat down, and reached for my hand. I took my hand away, looked into his eyes, and said, "What the hell was that?" Thank God. No one was sitting at the table with us at that moment and did not hear. "Connie, maybe we should go home, we need to talk." "Well, I'm not ready to go home yet, and I'm ready to have another drink." I got up, went to the bar and ordered another glass of wine. I looked back and saw Brad dancing with some woman, so I came over and intervened. He started laughing and then continued dancing with me. Brad leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Why don't we go smoke a joint?" I staggered after him and thought to myself, "Damn it, why not?" We went out into the lobby and I asked, "Where are you taking me?" He said, "It's in my car, silly. We can't smoke it here." The elevator had just pulled up. The door opened. a rather familiar elderly man came out, looked at me and smiled when we entered. "Are you heading downstairs, young lady, unaccompanied by your husband?" The elevator door closed. "It's strange. How could he know that you're not my husband?" "I don't know," Brad said. "Maybe he noticed that I didn't have an engagement ring. Wasn't that the old man from the coffee shop? Forget about him and kiss me." When we got to Brad's SUV, he opened the passenger door. Reaching into the glove compartment, he pulled out a small bag. He took out a joint and lit it, took a drag, and then handed it to me. It's been years, I think, since the last time I smoked at university. I was instantly turned on, and I started giggling like a schoolgirl. Leaning against his truck to keep from falling, Brad opened the back door and said, "Let's cool off for a minute." I thought to myself that I needed to go back upstairs to my husband, but my legs thought otherwise and I plopped into the back seat. Brad climbed in after me, and I leaned back and leaned my head against the far door. He climbed on top of me and started kissing me. It seemed so wrong, but at the same time so right. He lay down, snuggling up to me. It was ridiculous and childish to kiss in the back seat. My body felt like it was on fire. There was a tingling sensation between my legs. For the first time since I met my husband, I felt another man inside me. Brad started frantically squeezing into me like a man possessed. To my surprise, the door behind my head swung open and my head fell back. Yes, my head was completely tilted back, and I was looking into my husband's eyes. Troy's face looked furious. Brad looked ahead just as Troy punched Brad right in the nose with all his might. Blood immediately gushed out. Then, throwing my small clutch with my mobile phone into the back seat, he left without saying a word. I desperately pushed Brad away from me while trying to get out from under him onto the sidewalk through the open door. All I could hear was Brad's screams. "He broke my fucking nose." By the time I got to my feet and cleaned myself up, grabbing my purse from the back seat, I saw Troy's car pull out. I chased him for several feet, but I couldn't catch up, and I wouldn't know what to do if I could. "Brad, I need to go home. Give me a ride." "Find your own fucking way. I have to decide what I'm going to do about it. I have to get home to my wife and explain what happened to my face." I fell to the ground like a rag doll, crying hysterically. I ruined my whole life with one act. What the hell was I supposed to do now? After a while, I forced myself to stand on my heels and climbed the ramp into the cold, dark night. I have to go home. I have to fix this somehow. It was snowing lightly, and I looked back at the front of the hotel and saw a taxi parked in front of it. When I got to the taxi, I opened the passenger door and, to my surprise, he was there again. Yes, that's him, the old man from the coffee shop, the old man from the elevator. I closed the passenger door and climbed into the back seat. "Tell me again, who are you?" "My name is Guardian. I'm glad to officially meet you, Connie." "How do you know my name? I only order coffee at the coffee shop. I just have a good memory." "Do you drive a taxi too?" "What you won't do to make ends meet." After giving him the address, I noticed that he had a little angel hanging on a chain with a mirror. He turned on the meter, beeped, and drove off into the dark, snowy night. I was sitting and crying in the back of a taxi, desperately trying to reach Troy on my cell phone. His phone was obviously turned off. I sent him text messages telling him how sorry I was, asking for forgiveness, and telling Troy how much I loved him. "If you don't mind, I have to say that, little lady, you look very upset. Is there anything I can do to help?" "It's nice of you to offer to help," I exclaimed, choking back tears. "But no, you can't do anything for me, unless you create a miracle. I've ruined my marriage, my whole life. Only a Christmas miracle can help." "Well, if you really repent, I'll pray for a Christmas miracle for you, Mrs. Connie. I would appreciate it." After that, we drove in silence on a dark winter night, illuminated only by the headlights breaking through the falling flakes of snow. While I was quietly crying to myself, we got closer to what was once my happy home. My heart sank when I saw no footprints in the driveway and not a single light turned on. Troy didn't come home. What should I do now? The taxi stopped in the driveway, and I sat in stunned silence. I do not know what to do now. "Oh, I'm sorry. How much do I owe?" I checked my mobile phone for a message from Troy, then took the key in my purse and suddenly realized that I had no money. "Excuse me? I don't have any money with me. Do you mind if I come home? I have money in another wallet." I started crying loudly again. "I'm really bad," I thought. "Mrs. Connie, everything will work out. Have faith. Go ahead and do what you need to do." I hope so. "I'll be right back, I promise." Getting out of the taxi, my stilettos got stuck in the snow. I almost slipped and fell. I opened the door and stepped into a darkness as dark as my future. Groping for the switch in the dark, she turned on the light, then took off her wet heels. I hurried up the stairs to get the money. Turning on the bedroom light and grabbing my purse, I saw that everything looked exactly the same as it was when we left it. I put on my slippers, felt for the money, and hurried back to pay for the trip. When I got to the door, I looked out, but the taxi had already left. It was snowing heavily, so all our tracks had already disappeared. Closing the door, I returned to the kitchen, grabbed the phone, and tried to call Troy again. His phone is off. I'm terribly worried. Did he leave me? Will he come back? The weather is bad, and I'm worried that he might even have an accident. I do not know who else to call. I cannot call my mother. It's late, and if I did call, I'd open a whole can of worms trying to explain why I don't know where my husband is. If Troy is not at home in the morning, I will call my daughter and then I will talk to my mother. I made sure that the lights were on outside but not in the hall, and decided to go upstairs, take a shower, and wash the dirt off my body from Brad's touch. If only I could get him out of my head. She took off her little red dress and spread it out on a chair. I took off the rest of my underwear and threw it into the laundry basket. I suddenly felt very sick, and I ran to the toilet to throw up. After I jumped into the shower, I tried to wipe myself clean, but I couldn't wash away my shame. I toweled off, brushed my teeth, and put on my pajamas. Alas, I have no choice but to go to bed and try to rest. Hopefully, Troy would come home. I couldn't sleep. I just replayed the events of the evening over and over in my mind. The remorse and guilt I felt was almost unbearably painful. At some point, I must have dozed off, because the next thing I heard was the sound of running water. What's it? Is Troy taking a shower? I got up and tiptoed into the bathroom, just as the water turned off. Troy got out of the shower, grabbing a towel. "Hey, Sleeping Beauty, I didn't want to bother you. It's a pity that we won't have time to have a little fun before the Christmas party." I stood there and stared at him in shock, trying to figure out what he was telling me and what was going on. He took me in his arms, pressing his naked body against me, and kissed me passionately. He patted my butt lightly and said, "Are you going to go to the party in those pajamas? Or are you going to wear that beautiful red dress over there?" I continued to stand and stare at him in stunned silence. Is there a Christmas party tonight? Did I dream about it? Troy grabbed his things and went to change. Still trying to make sense of what was happening, I went to the bathroom and started applying makeup. Was it all a dream? Or am I dreaming now? I hurried to look in the laundry basket, but there was nothing there, so I went to my dresser drawer. The matching black thong and bra I thought I was wearing to the party were in the drawer. I decided to wear white lace panties and a bra. I put on a little red dress, then curled my hair. I grabbed a pair of red high-heeled shoes and headed downstairs to meet Troy. Troy looked amazing in a black suit, white shirt, and turquoise blue tie that accentuated his eyes. He told me how fantastic I looked. At that moment, I couldn't stand it and started crying hysterically. "Connie, what's wrong?" he said, pulling me into a hug. "Oh, Troy, please don't ever let me go. I love you so much." I looked into his eyes. "Please, Troy, do we have to go to the Christmas party?" "Don't cry, honey. I love you too, and of course we don't have to go there. Look, we're dressed up like this. How about I take you to a nice restaurant and we can talk?" Troy walked me to my car and sat me down. It was starting to snow. I looked at the street lamp, and the night sky sparkled with every little snowflake. Has the guardian angel fulfilled my Christmas wish? Given me a second chance? Troy took me to the city's Lula Lounge, which was a place we hadn't been in a very long time. There were separate booths in the dining area, and at the far end there was a piano bar with a small dance floor. We sat down at the bar and drank a glass of Riesling, waiting for a table to be available. Troy, I need to tell you something. Okay, Connie, I'm listening to what's on your mind. I have a guy at work. He's in love with me and lately I've been going to lunch with him sometimes. We're just talking, flirting, there's nothing going on between us. I was flattered by his attention, that's all. Were you flattered? What exactly were you flattered by? Well, I was flattered because he kissed me and I let him, and I'm very sorry about that. Troy, please don't hate me. I do not know what came over me. I made stupid decisions, but it's all over. If you don't mind, I'd like to file a letter of resignation from my job. Can I just focus on my family for now? We need to rebuild our relationship. I want to be the kind of wife you deserve. Troy, please forgive me. Just at that moment, the pianist, the lady in red, started playing, and Troy stood up and took my hand. Dance with me. At first, we were just the two of us on the dance floor. Then another couple joined us. I put my head on his chest and cried. Troy just held me in his arms while we danced. At the end of the song, he wiped away my tears and we went back to the bar. We were immediately escorted to a separate small booth at the back of the restaurant. I didn't feel particularly hungry, so we shared some nutmeg in creamy wine sauce and smoked salmon with creamy dill sauce and sour cream capers. While I was picking at my food, Troy started talking about work, holidays, Christmas, and, of course, about our little girl, without even bringing up the subject of what we just talked about in the bar. I thought I was in some kind of fairy tale world. Why am I here now in this restaurant with my husband? How come I'm not making that terrible mistake with Brad at the Christmas party on the other side of town? Was it all a dream, a premonition, or was I saved by my guardian angel? After dinner, we went straight home, not talking, just listening to music. I didn't want to bring it up again. At home, I asked Troy if he wanted another drink. A glass of wine would be nice, thank you. He came in and sat down in the living room. I took our drinks and joined him. We sat down next to him and just looked at each other for a while. Then he started talking. Connie, I'm aware of what was going on at your work, and I'm glad you told me, because I started to think that there might be a problem that could not be solved, and this concerns your previous question. I will be glad if you stay at home for the near future, just like it was when we brought our little angel home from the hospital. Take as much time as you need. Let's not talk about it anymore. How about we have a very Merry Christmas? You're so beautiful, and I'm going to make love to you tonight. Tomorrow we will pick up our daughter and go to breakfast together. Then we can decorate a real Christmas tree and I think we'll have time to do some Christmas shopping. How does it sound? It sounds like you gave me the best Christmas present ever. I love you.